It's another wild day in the world of Magic the Gathering. We've got a Modern Horizons 3 price crash to talk about, a brand new secret lair, and a whole wad of Assassin's Creed spoilers too.
Magic.
I am a wizard!
History.
I'm an old wizard!
The Magic Historian.
My bones hurt. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for another jam-packed installment of Mega Magic News. We gotta talk about Modern Horizons 3. There's this wonky new secret lair that I gotta show you, and we're gonna take a look at a whole bunch of Assassin's Creed cards because there are a bunch of nutty things going on with that. But before we do that, just want to let you guys know that I have put out a review for the Athenium game. Now, you might have noticed in the past actually that I was wearing a hoodie and wondered what Athenium was. Well, now it's your time to find out. I have a link at the end of the video to let you go and watch that over on my other channel. All right, that out of the way, let's dive in to the Magic news. We're going to start by talking about the Modern Horizons 3 price crash, all right? Because the prices for this stuff started out really high for all of the singles, and things have been on a massive downwards trajectory, with the exception of a few spikes here or there. Like Sorin is going, woo, Sorin is literally soaring, right? So, but ultimately, things like the medallions especially, we saw them reprinted in Commander Masters. And that had a bit of an effect on the price overall of medallions, but not much. With this reprinting, they are tanking way down. When the set came out, they were sitting up at maybe $15. Now they have went all the way down to being like $1 a piece. Cards like Urza's Incubator are getting slammed. Pretty much almost every reprint that's in Modern Horizons 3 has taken a tumble. And a bunch of the Modern Horizons 3 cards themselves have also headed downwards on a larger trajectory than you would expect, especially for a set that is buoyed up by the price of the boxes, right? The set costs more to buy, which would necessitate a higher price on the singles because otherwise nobody's going to be opening the boxes at the cost it takes. So it really is interesting to see how Modern Horizons 3 changes things, right? This is the third iteration of Modern Horizons, and as usual, Wizards has shoved cards in it that are absolutely intended to affect Modern, shake it up, and it seems like Wizards wants Modern to go like this. Hey, we know you want a non-rotating format, but from now on, the format's going to be defined by what's ever in the newest to Modern set. So Modern Horizons 3 is already reshaping Modern and will continue to do so. But the price crash is absolutely wild. It's cratering so hard. So we'll have to see over time whether there's any kind of recovery or if it just flatlines overall. Now, let's talk about the insane new secret lair. Take a look on your screen. This is the Not a Wolf secret lair. So it includes Beastmaster's Ascension, Averbrock Caretaker, which the other side of that card is the Hollowhenge Huntmaster. And I just want to point out that I don't like in this image that they've moved the Hollowhenge Huntmaster. The back side of the Averbrock Caretaker is shown at the front of this picture, which gives the false impression like it's a separate card and not the back side of it. If you look at Tovalar, which is reskinned as Not a Wolf, you can see both of his sides are right beside each other, but you've got the Averbrock Caretaker tucked into the back of the image, and you've got the Hollowhenge at the front. I don't like that. I think that's a little bit devious. The other cards in this layer are Second Harvest and Howl of the Night Pack, as well as a wolf token, which is funny. You can see he's dressed like a human, and it's totally crossed out the wolf, and is like, yo, bro, I'm a human, trust me. So if you don't know what this secret layer is all about, basically, it's a meme secret lair. There's a Twitter account called Not a Wolf, and the idea is it's a wolf who's trying to pass themselves off as a regular, everyday human. Like, yo, I do my taxes. I have problems with my laptop just like you, bro. It is a funny idea. And as far as secret lairs go, it's the perfect place to do weird, wonky stuff like this. So ultimately, I think this is pretty sweet. But also, I'm pretty biased. I really like green, and cards like Howl of the Night Pack, while they might not be the most powerful cards, I absolutely love them. Are you kidding me? I get a 2/2 wolf for every forest I have out, right? And that token is genuinely a lot of fun as well. So, that wraps up talking about the secret lair, which means it's time to move into taking a look at a crazy amount of nutty Assassin's Creed cards. Let's go! We're starting out with Templar Knight, which is an interesting and somewhat strange choice. It's 1 white and 1 for a 3/1 Vigilance Human Knight. It has the ability pay 1, tap 5 untapped attacking creatures you control named Templar Knight. Now that made me stop for a second and go, 5? What am I supposed to copy this guy? Anyways, you tap 5 of them, you search your library for a legendary artifact card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. Now when you get to the bottom of the card, you realize, oh, a deck can have any number of cards named Templar Knight. So that's obviously how you get up to having 5 of them. But unlike a lot of the other cards where you can play any number of them, it really doesn't feel ultra powerful as it scales. It's not going to grow like the ooze or anything like that, right? It's basically you have to get a full 5 of these guys out to activate the ability. Now, admittedly, paying 1 mana and tapping guys without having to swing in with them is a repeatable effect that you can use to start fetching multiple legendary artifacts out of your deck. So that part is pretty nice, but ultimately, I don't know how desirable it will be to have too many slots of your deck taken up with these guys. And it is strange to me that this is the first time white has gotten one of these. You can play any number of these cards, right? But it's specifically in Assassin's Creed, which is by necessity going to limit the amount of these that are going to be basically cracked out of packs, because this isn't a major release. This is a 100 card side set that was done in the same style of Aftermath with only 7 cards per booster. So it really does remain to be seen how much of an impact these are going to have on anything and how desirable they're going to be. Is this just Wizards trying to kind of goose the numbers, have people crack more packs chasing down these Templar Knights? In terms of the artwork, it actually just looks like pretty standard fare for Magic. You've got your soldier knights, right? No big deal here, but I do find it a little strange that they chose to go, hey, we're going to do, you can play any number of these cards for white, but we're going to put it in this niche product. Ultimately, an interesting card. I'm curious to see how it's going to go with this guy. Moving on, we've got Become Anonymous, 2 blue and 2 instant, exile target non-token creature you control, and the top 2 cards of your library in a face-down pile. Shuffle that pile, then cloak those cards. They enter the battlefield tapped. To cloak a card, you put it on the battlefield face down as a 2/2 with Ward 2. So that's what we saw originally with the Markov Manor set. This ties into the whole, when you're playing Assassin's Creed, if you can run off and hide, you can make yourself back into an everyday folk again, right? Because obviously you trigger a bunch of guards and knights coming looking for you, but then you just go and jump in some hay, hop out. Hey, I'm some other guy, not that dude who just gorked a bunch of people in the neck. So it does properly evoke the flavor of Assassin's Creed. I don't know how well it's going to work power-wise because it is very random. I mean, you have to exile one of your dudes. You get 2 cards off the top, but they may or may not be creatures, so you may or may not be able to turn it face up. So this is going to be swingy and weird. At 4 mana, it does feel pretty expensive, but you can do it at instant speed to save one of your creatures, bring it back cloaked, and have 2 other creatures. So if you have any kind of like, I want to hit you directly with this creature kind of ability, it does make multiple creatures where you go, okay, I don't know which one of these dudes. It actually kind of makes me think a little bit about the card Camouflage from the earliest days of Magic. It has some similarities. Then we've got Roshan, Hidden Magister. 1 black and 3 for a 4/4. It's a human assassin that says other creatures you control are assassins in addition to their other types. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. Face down creatures you control have menace. Whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. So obviously this would pair quite well with the spell we just looked at, making all your dudes harder to block with menace. And when you flip them up, you're going to get to draw cards and lose life. And this makes everybody into an assassin, so any cards you have that care about assassins will benefit from it as well. And you can see some assassins going on a rooftop jumping fest, so works for me. Seems like a good choice because the set doesn't have a ton of cards in it, so having ways to expand the amount of assassins you have is a good idea. Then we've got Adwale, Breaker of Chains. A black, a blue, and 1 for a 4/1 legendary human assassin pirate. When they enter the battlefield, reveal the top 6 cards of your library, put an assassin, pirate, or vehicle from among them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So that's not too bad. You get to dig 6 deep, which is pretty solid whether you're playing Commander or a regular format. Whenever a vehicle you control deals combat damage to a player, you may return Adwale from your graveyard to your hand. So a 3 mana 4/1 that every time it comes out, you get to dig 6 deep. And if it ends up hitting the graveyard, which it probably will with 1 toughness, let's be real, unless you have some way to make this guy unblockable, it's going to be pretty easy to just even chump him with a 1/1. But vehicles will let you keep slapping him back into your hand. So I don't know much about this character, but the flavor that it gives me is they're just out there stealing pirate ships. An assassin who hops from pirate ship to pirate ship, which is not a terrible concept. The artwork is serviceable. You can literally see like a pirate captain. You got pirates in the background. You got the assassin's hood. It all ties together. Then we've got Bayek of Siwa. So that's 1 white, 1 red, and 3 for a 3/4 double strike human assassin. As long as it's your turn, other historic creatures you control have double strike. Not too shabby. Make all your other legendary guys double strike. Not going to complain about that. And disguise 3. So you can play it face down for 3 mana a la Morph. It's a 2/2 with ward 2. And you can turn it face up for 3 mana. So this could easily turn into a blowout if you have it face down amongst a bunch of your other dudes. You swing with it. They don't know who to block. All of a sudden you flip this up. Not only is it double strike, but any other legendaries you have are also double striking. And you can see this is some close quarters running down an alley kind of action. You got one of those crazy, I think they're called Kopesh swords with the wicked curved blades. And you got the little arm buckler, bam, deflecting a spear that's coming in so hard that the sparks are flying off of it. So that is some cool like action going on. And you can see that Bayek here is fighting back to back almost with another individual who I presume would be a historic creature who's also going to have double strike to take guards on in the other way. Not too shabby. Then we've got Edward Kenway. I do it the Ken way. 1 red, 1 black, 1 blue, and 2 for a 5/5 legendary human assassin pirate. At the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each tapped assassin, pirate, and or vehicle you control. So if you have that other creature who makes all your guys into assassins, then it's going to count for every tapped creature you have and give you a whole bunch of treasure tokens. Whenever a vehicle you control deals combat damage to a player, look at the top card of that player's library, then exile it face down. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. I wasn't expecting Assassin's Creed to have as big of a vehicle theme that it does, and I also find it interesting that this one lets you exile the cards off of your opponent's deck, but it does not let you cast it as if manas were any color, like most of the exile cards do. However, that is offset by the fact that you literally do get treasure tokens for all your tapped guys. And the flavor, I mean, it looks like he's swinging between 2 pirate ships. So for every assassin or pirate you have, or vehicles as well, which feels a little bit weird, but for every pirate and assassin you have, you're literally like, let me hop over and grab some booty, yo! And then you have those treasures to sack to cast the spells off of your opponent's deck. And it is of note that these treasure tokens don't come into play tapped, because Wizards has been making more come into play tapped treasure token cards as of late. Not too bad. I do like the action that's going on in the artwork with the going from one ship to another style. Then we've got Ivor Wolfkist. That's a cool name. 1 white, 1 green, 1 red, and 3 for a 7/6 trample haste. I love big, dumb creatures. So those numbers are very satisfying. Whenever Ivor deals combat damage to a player, you mill that many cards. You may put a saga card and or land card from among them onto the battlefield. This feels pretty wild, right? Like, if you hit for 7 with this, you're going to mill 7 cards off of your deck. Putting a land into play out of that doesn't feel that great, especially if you already have the 6 mana to cast Ivor, but putting a Saga Strain to play isn't a terrible idea, right? So when I look at this, I go, in Commander, it feels less dangerous, like you're not going to run out of cards as quickly, but I guess if you swing with this 3 times and hit your opponent, you'd hit them for 21 and have milled 21 cards. But still, that is a steep cost. Either way, she has heavy Viking vibes, right? Coming in charging with the war axe and the shield. And I actually like the flowers and the butterfly. I think that's a butterfly, unless it's a flower petal. Either way, the flower petal gives this sort of calm, soft nature to the surrounding artwork. But then the war bellow in the middle, and combined with the 7/6 trample haste, gives that defiant, destructive energy. So this is a pretty cool card. Then we've got Hatham Kenway. He also does it the Ken way. 1 blue, 1 white, and 2 for a 3/3 human knight. Protection from assassins, which is fun. Other knights you control get +2/+2 on protection from assassins, so it's a Night Lord. And on top of that, when Kenway enters the battlefield, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target creature that player controls until this guy leaves the battlefield. This feels pretty solid overall. This artwork actually looks like it would be quite at home in an Innistrad style set, out in the darkness of the forest, but you got the torch held high, lighten the way. I don't know how you have protection from assassins ultimately as an ability like that. I mean, it looks like it'd be pretty easy to take this guy out with an arrow or a thrown dagger, but the ability is pretty sweet. And somebody who will boost up all your knights, but like, you can ignore the protection from assassins part. This can have a home in like any knight deck. It gives all you guys +2/+2 and exiles 1 of each of your opponent's creatures until he's gone. That's really, really solid. Then we've got Lydia Fry. She is a hybrid black, blue, and 2 for a 3/2. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. And at the beginning of your end step, surveil X, where X is the number of tapped assassins you control. So, I mean, this is kind of a middle-of-the-road card. I like the artwork where you can see the city burning. And is that a Zeppelin in the background? I never know. I think I might have just ranked that as an airship. That's pretty nutty. Is this the first time? There might be some kind of goblin Zeppelin in Magic. I feel like there might already be some Zeppelin action. But Zeppelins are insane to me. The idea of like, yo, let's take this super flammable gas and make a huge inflatable balloon that will float us around. It's so archaic and wild. Ultimately, the card's not really going to knock your socks off mechanics-wise, but it's all right. Then we got Rattenhake Tun. I have no idea how to say this guy's name. A black, a blue, and a white for a 3/3. It's got the interesting ability that as long as it hasn't dealt damage yet, it has hexproof and can't be blocked. Now, that's not this turn. That just means as long as he hasn't dealt damage at all during this game. Once he's dealt damage once, he loses those abilities. But up until then, he has hexproof and is unblockable, which is pretty wild. You can't target him, and he can just swing past your guys. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you make a 1/1 black assassin creature token with menace, and when you do, you return target equipment card from your graveyard to the battlefield and attach it to that token. So this feels like it could be really solid. You could slap some crazy equipment on this guy, because the Assassin's Creed set has reprints of a bunch of the different swords, you know, like Sword of Light and Shadow style cards where, hey, look, I get 2 triggers whenever I hit. So you could load him down with equipment, swing, also get a 1/1 out of the deal and an equipment back from your graveyard. Like, overall, this can provide a lot of value. It can also just hit and just give you a 1/1 with menace, which is, it's all right, but this is every time he connects, and you're going to get to do it at least once with no concerns whatsoever. So depending on the setup you use with them, feels like it could be pretty gross. And I like the artwork of the snowy forest, this assassin coming barreling down out of the trees, ready to just axe you on the noggin. Get some! Bam! Right? After that, we've got Sean and Rebecca, agents. I don't think I've seen a more generic name on a Magic card ever. And it's just kind of funny. It's like, check it out, it's Sean and Rebecca. They brought their laptops so we can watch pirated movies. 1 blue, 1 white, 1 green, and 1 for a 4/4 with vigilance. When Sean and Rebecca enter the battlefield, search your graveyard, hand, and library for a card named the Animus, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So you do get a 2-for-1. It is a 4/4 vigilance, and it's got the ability tap, add a colorless when you do mill 2 cards. That doesn't feel too great. Honestly, getting a colorless and you having to mill 2 cards, that doesn't feel too hot to me. It's a very weird card. Human assassin scientists, like, I guess they have combat capabilities because they're a 4/4 together, which is not what you would expect 2 people with a laptop to be, honestly. So these are the people who operate the Animus, which is what they use to delve into your past lives. Assassin's Creed is such a weird game because it's all about like historical figures and the past, but it's using future technology. It's a really interesting concept, and I played a few of the Assassin's Creed games before I played one of them that was so buggy that it made me kind of abandon the series. But it's definitely got a cool concept for the game overall. Moving on, we've got Shay Cormac, a black and a white for a 1/1 human knight rogue. And it's got 1 mana, permanent to your opponent's control, lose hexproof, indestructible, protection, shroud, and ward until end of turn. All the stuff that would make your guys hard to get rid of. It's cool that it includes shroud because shroud is an ability we don't see anymore. Shroud was the precursor to hexproof. Hexproof says your opponent can't target this. Shroud says nobody can target this. So it's cool to see that it's all encompassing and it will get rid of all the abilities that make it impossible to target your dude. So it says, whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes the target of a spell or ability you control, put a bounty counter on that creature. Whenever a creature with a bounty counter on it dies, put 2+1/+1 counters on Shay Cormac. He's out there hunting assassins. And I like the reference to bounty counters because way back in like the Mirage days, or was it Tempest? One of those really old school sets. We got a creature called Bounty Hunter where he taps to put bounty counters on creatures and then he can destroy dudes with bounty counters on them. So it's a fun way to make a callback to that old card in a way that ties together pretty well. The artwork on this, pretty straightforward, but he's about to bring it down. I hope you like getting sorted in the head, son. Bam, you heard of the sorting hat? Well, this is sorting off your hat. Whoop. Anyways. After that, we've got Sigurd, the Jarl of Ravensthorpe. A white, a green, and a red gets you a 3/3 human warrior that has vigilance, trample, and lifelink. Those are some fun abilities all slapped together. And he's got boast. For 1, put a lore counter on target saga you control, or remove 1 from it. So when you attack with him, you can activate this 1 time a turn to go, yo, I'm going to either speed my saga up or remove a counter on it. So the saga never ends, right? Because every turn it'll get a new counter on it. If you swing and take that counter off, you can just have constant saga, like doing the exact same thing every turn, which is pretty cool, actually. Whenever you put a lore counter on a saga you control, put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 other target creature. So unfortunately, he can't beefcake himself, but he can beefcake other people. Not too shabby. And the artwork shows the Jarl here regaling everyone with tales of battle and glory. And they're all drinking and cheering. Yeah, let's keep it going. It's got some good flavor to it. Then you got Socrates, the actual human Greek dude from a million years ago. Athenian teacher. 1 blue, 1 white, and 1 for a 0/4 with defender. He has hexproof as long as he's untapped. And then you've got Socratic Dialogue, his ability. He taps to talk to one of your opponent's creatures. And he does a good job of convincing them. Until end of turn, Target creature gains. If this creature would deal combat damage to a player, prevent that damage, this creature's controller and that player may each draw half that many cards rounded down. So if it's a 4-power creature, you can each draw 2 cards. It's a very weird one. The flavor of it is hilarious if you extend it out past the normal creatures that you see in Assassin's Creed. Because in Assassin's Creed, everybody's like a human. And so it's like, oh, I can just come talk to you. But with this, you can talk to oozes. He speaks ooze. He speaks draconic. He can talk to a dragon. Look, man, I know you want to burn the entire village, but what if we just talk about philosophy? And then the dragon's like, you make some valid points, Socrates. I too like the Bill and Ted movie. It's so just ultimately weird to see this in Magic the Gathering. And this kind of ability is not my kind of ability. I do not like giving my opponent cards. Stopping one dude from dealing combat damage to let my opponent draw multiple cards is not a feel-good moment, even if I'm drawing those cards. So for me, this card is interesting, but pretty much unusable. Then we've got the Apple of Eden, the Isu Relic. This thing's nuts. 4 casting cost legendary artifact. Tap it, pay 4 life, sacrifice it. Look at target opponent's hand and exile those cards face down. You may play those cards this turn, and mana of any type can be spent to cast them. Until end of turn, whenever you play a land or cast a spell this way, its owner draws a card. At the beginning of the next end step, return the exiled card to their owner's hand. Activate only as a sorcery. So you can literally stop your opponent from being able to do anything for an entire turn, right? You can take their hand away. Even if you choose not to cast anything out of their hand, you can just go, nope. You get to see their hand. You can play their best spells. Yes, they do get to draw off it, and you don't know what they're going to get. So there is a bit of a trade-off. But this feels like it can be abused very heavily, especially if you play cards that stop triggered abilities, right? Because then when it triggers to give them their cards back at the end of the turn, then they don't get them back. So this card definitely absolutely feels nutty to me. Then we've got Abstergo Entertainment. This is a legendary land that taps for a colorless, or pay 1 and tap it, add a mana of any color, or pay 3 and tap it, exile it, return up to 1 target historic card from your graveyard to your hand, then exile all graveyards. So it's pretty decent in that you can remove your opponent's graveyard. Yeah, you get rid of yours too, but you can bring the best historic card back from your graveyard, whether it's an artifact, legendary card, or saga. So this is all right. It's not like super insane. It just feels like some people at a museum in the artwork almost, you know? It's like, okay, all right. Moving on. We've got the Brotherhood Headquarters. This land taps for a colorless, or it taps to add a mana of any color, but that mana can only be spent to cast an assassin spell or a spell that has free running, and so far, only Assassin's Creed cards have free running. Or it can activate an ability of an assassin's source. So ultimately, this is a pretty limited scope land, but for assassin players, they're going to be all over it, right? And you literally just see the headquarters building. It's fine. The artwork's not super exciting. Meh. Then we've got Caduceus? I don't know. Staff of Hermes. 1 white and 2 for an awesome legendary equipment. Equipped creature has lifelink. Costs 2 to equip it. 2 white. As long as you have 30 or more life, equipped creature gets +5/+5 and has indestructible and prevent all damage that would be dealt to this creature. It's indestructible, it can't take damage, and even a 1/1 is a 6/6. This really does feel like a legendary object of massive power. Like, this is something I would absolutely put in my cube. It's so goofy, right? You can just hand it around from creature to creature, taking advantage of the lifelink until all of a sudden you're at 30 or more, and then it's nutty. Or if you're a commander player, you're already salivating because you already start at 30 or more. So this just starts out ready to go. Look, I can make a guy 6/6 indestructible, take no damage. It's bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Like, most of the cards we're looking at today aren't that powerful. This thing is a house. I'm surprised it's not mythic rare. Then you got Layla Hassan, 1 white and 3 for a 3/4 for a striker. When she enters the battlefield, and whenever 1 or more assassins you control deal combat damage to a player, return target historic card from your graveyard to your hand. Now this one's great. Get back sagas, get back your legendaries, get back artifacts just by her coming into play, or any one of your assassins managing to connect. So I feel like you can get a lot of value off of this. She doesn't feel like a 3/4 when you look at her though, right? She looks like a 1/1 archaeologist, and it is still weird to me to see like regular everyday folk in what feels like modern era clothing, right? So, flavor-wise, ability-wise, thumbs up, bro. Then you got Ezio, Brash Novice. So this is a hybrid red, white, and 1 for a 1/1. Whenever he attacks, put a +1/+1 on him. And as long as he has 2 or more counters on him, he has first strike and is an assassin in addition to his other types. So this is cool. This is the journey of starting out as a novice and becoming the actual assassin. And I'm pretty sure this is like one of the earlier dudes where you have to chop off one of your fingers to be able to use that assassin's blade, which is, that's a pretty hardcore dedication to lose one of your fingers, son. The flavor text says, when I was a young man, I had liberty, but I did not see it. I had time, but I did not know it. I had love, but I did not feel it. That definitely does convey the idea of being young, where you have a bunch of things that you take for granted. You're not really aware of how good you have it. So that rounds out all the spoilers and ends the video. Thanks for coming and hanging out. As I mentioned earlier, I did a review of the Athenium card game over on my Hatcher channel. You'll find a link to it up here at the end of the video. I'll be doing a live stream over there tonight as well. If you want to come by and say hello, you're welcome to do so. A big thank you to all of my patrons for supporting my channel. And I will see you all, my friends, in the next video.